So now we are going to discuss about how do we evaluate, how do we evaluate operating effectiveness of controls. See, first we need to test the control. First we need to perform test of the control. Once you test the control, based on that you get some evidence whether control is existing, whether control is existing or not, whether the control is effectively working or not, whether the control is operating throughout the year continuously or not. You'll get some idea whether the control is existing, is it working effectively or operating throughout the year or not. You'll get some idea. But only when you actually verify the real transactions, only when you actually verify the real transactions, you will understand how really the controls are effective. Suppose example, we all know, we have seen that example itself, vendor example itself will continue. In purchase order, if I mention 1000 quantity multiplied by 1000 rupees price, let us assume the price is 1000 rupees, quantity is 1000 units. When I'm receiving the goods, when I'm entering the purchase data, when I'm entering a purchase entry, or when I'm receiving, when I'm issuing GRN note, goods received note, the goods received note shall not accept more than 1000 quantity, shall not accept more than 1000 price. Suppose if goods received note do not have a price control, quantity control is there, price control is not given in GRN. Price related control is not given. Maybe in GRN they can mention 1100 or 1200. Suppose invoice is mentioning some 1200 rupees, whereas order copy mentioned 1000, which is as per the tender, agreed tender. Okay, but GRN may have some other. But we have a compensatory control here. Payments department. Payments department will make payment only based on purchase order. They will not make payment based on invoice. Purchase invoice is a proof that goods are sold. We purchased it. Purchase order is the criteria to make the payment. Like simply speaking, payment department shall pay amount indicated in purchase order or amount indicated in purchase invoice, whichever is lower, that only they have to pay. Suppose if purchase order we build 10 lakhs. In order copy we send 10 lakhs product I want. Suppose they sent all the products, but only 9 lakhs they build. In such case, 9 lakhs only we should pay. So that is the control which is payment department should follow. So the control is there. Very good. Payment department is checking and paying. But when I verify some purchase transactions, the payment department paid. The payment department paid more than purchase order quantity, more than purchase order price. More than the price indicated in purchase order, more than that price payment department paid, which means what? Though there is a control, it is not working. So the auditor shall evaluate whether misstatement that have been detected. I detected one mistake now here. Payment department is making payment more than purchase order related. So detected by substantive. Only when I verify purchase transaction, in real transaction, only if I verify, it indicates controls are not operating effectively. So the auditor shall evaluate whether misstatements or misstatements detected by substantive procedure. When I verify real transaction, I detected mistakes. Is it related to a control failure? Check it out. Second one, suppose you verified internal controls, you tested controls, everything is fine, you verified substantive procedures. See, by the way, we do test control in two ways. We do test controls in two ways. I'll show you. Just a minute. See, compliance procedure and substantive procedure, though we say they are two different parts, they just go side by side. They just go side by side. Now, first I want to understand what I need to first perform test of controls. First I need to test internal control system. In order to test the internal control system, first I should identify the controls. First I should identify the controls. Then I should analyze how the control is working. What is the process? Control is nothing but understand it's a process. It is a process which is followed by the management. Suppose you are going to D-Mart or Big Bazaar, what is the control there? You are going there, taking whatever the goods you want into the trolley, you are coming to the billing counter, each and every item is taken out, billed it, and only then it is again given back to you. It's a control, it's a process. The process something followed by the management. Any process something which is followed by the management, we call it as control. Now, how do I test these controls? First, I should understand what is the process the management follows. Then I will analyze whether that process is correctly done or not. Is that process correct or not? First of all, I should also check whether is that process correct. Is there any loophole in the process? I need to check. Suppose finally done, understood. I found the process is correct. Now, by using this process, company has done some transactions, right? This transactions I will verify. This transactions I will verify. Now, verifying this transaction is actual data is called as substantive procedure. Now, when I verify this transaction, somewhere I noticed the process designed by the management is not followed. Even though the control designing is good, even though the control is implemented, every employee knows about that control, but the management at some places, we have identified deviations from control. We identified misstatements. We have identified misstatements. We have identified mistakes in our sample. That's when the control has been failed. So any mistake we identify in substantive procedure, it may be an indication that controls are not effective. Further, one more principle I want to tell you. Suppose you did substantive procedure completely, you tested controls, you felt controls are good, effective, and when you verify all the transaction on sample basis, you verified so many transactions, you did not find a single material misstatement also, a single mistake also you did not find. Entire process organization followed as it is. Based on sample, you cannot say controls are very effective. Just because there is no mistake you found, just because you did not find a mistake, doesn't mean controls are highly effective. Remember, this threat is possible. Sometimes you may overlook. That's why you don't form generalized conclusions. Based on the information you got, controls are effective. Maybe if you got some other information, some other sample, you would have identified mistakes if at all there. If at all you identify mistakes, you may not say that controls are very effective. But when a mistake is found, definitely when a mistake is found, why a mistake can happen? Definitely, why a mistake happens? Because something, a process which is designed, they didn't follow. Existence of mistakes. When I perform substantive procedure, when I actually verify the transactions, there is a mistake. It is a strong indicator. It is a strong indicator that some control is missing. Some control is missing, or some control is weak, not working. There is a control deviation. We call it as control deviation. We call this term with a we call it with a term called control deviation. What is a control deviation? Either the control which is important is missing, like in our example in GRN, price related restriction is missing. That is one deviation. Another one, payment department has to check purchase order and then pay accordingly, which they are not doing. Our control is not working. Control is there, but employees are not working on it. So there is a control deviation. Existence of material misstatement while carrying out substantive procedures is a strong indicator that there is a significant deviation in the internal control. Have you understood? Have you understood? Please reply me. Have you understood the term? Whatever I told right now, have you understood? Yes, very good. Next. So here if you observe, how do auditor evaluate operating effectiveness of control? What are the principles for evaluation? Nothing but these are nothing but principles. Principles they are speaking. While evaluating operating effectiveness of relevant control means for purchases related control, sales related controls. Okay. The auditor shall evaluate whether misstatements that have been detected, you identified some mistakes after substantive procedure, does it indicate controls are not operating effectively? Is it because of the control failure the mistake happened? Or the absence of mistakes detected by substantive You verify transaction, substantive procedures you did, but no mistake you found. Does not provide evidence that controls being tested are effective. Maybe you perform substantive procedure, you did not find any mistake. They're asking you, so since you did not find any mistake, do you mean to say controls are very effective? No, 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 no. I said control. I did not find a mistake. I didn't say that controls are effective. Suppose no. Suppose no. I saw the process. Controls are really effective. I selected sample and checked with control every time. Yeah, exactly matching. In that case, I can say based on substantive procedures, controls are effective. If I don't do this kind of actual checking with control process, reconciliation, I cannot say if I did not find a mistake, control is effective. A material misstatement detected by audit procedure is a strong indicator there is a significant deficiency in the internal control. If you find a mistake, it's a strong indicator that some mistake. So that's about evaluation of internal control. Now, once again, I'll repeat the yesterday's 3 questions. What auditor has to do? Test of controls, auditor has to do. What is the nature of test of controls? The nature of test of controls, what is the nature is how controls are applied in the relevant period, which I am doing the audit. Are they consistently followed? The process set up by the management, top management have designed the process, top management have designed the system, process, getting it, hierarchy, is it consistently followed? Who is applying this? In what way they are applying this? Is it IT related or non-IT related? By the way, whatever the controls you're testing, if it is influenced by other control, note you need to get evidence about other controls efficiency also. Other controls are also called as also known as AKA, means also known as indirect controls. Also remember, just inquiring about controls alone do not provide sufficient appropriate evidence. You need to inspect logbook. Sometimes you need to reperform the IT control. You need observation. Further, what is the nature of control? In what form the control is implemented? Is it computer form or is it manual form? That influences the procedure I need to follow. Suppose if the control is a manual control implemented by manpower, I will inquire, I will observe. If it is performed generally by computer, I will look at inspection, logbook, I will reperform in the computer. That's it. That's what I say. If the controls are documented, inspection is the right way. Documented means let us assume electronic or something. Now, to what extent you will test the controls? To what extent you test the controls? Do you test entire 100% of the controls or sample? If so, sample, bigger sample or smaller sample, to what extent you will test the control? When I need more convincing evidence, my testing will be increasing. So the auditor will consider the following factors when I'm determining testing. First, I will understand how frequently the organization is performing the control. How frequently? Suppose you take purchase order, GRN payment, it's every invoice it will be there. For every invoice, purchase order, GRN, everything will be there. There are some purchases. Organization will have some purchases which are one-time vendors. There is a concept called one-time vendor. Every time, no, for everything I cannot call for tender, finalize the tender, and then suppose example, in our office, some tea or coffee has to be supplied. That tea or chai wala will be changing every month. One-time vendor we call it as. So the control process for one-time vendor, one-time supplier is different from the controls that are there for normal vendors who are permanent with our organizations. So how frequently it is performing? Example, if the control is highly frequent, generally you will have more reliance. One-time vendors means only one time the control is performed at that moment, not regularly, which is risk is very high. Suppose if it is a regular vendor from whom we purchase every time, whenever we need a raw material, we purchase only from that 3 vendors. It's a high frequency. Management will always check all the processes with that vendor. Whenever a transaction is done with that vendor, whenever a transaction is executed with that vendor, we check all the processes and rules and regulations. And then only we make purchase accordingly. And the purchase is also processed in the same manner. There I will have more reliance as an auditor. One-time vendor, I will have less reliance. Who approved this one-time vendor? When he supplied? What is the total price he charged? Who approved that price? Did it settled or not? Have you settled more than what he charged? First of all, did he give bill? Because these one-time vendors are generally unorganized sectors. GST registration also will not be there. Here the risk is high. I will have lesser reliance. The length of the time during the audit period that an auditor is relying on the operating effectiveness of control. Now there is a control rate purchases. For what length of the time, for what period of time you are believing that control? No, I believe it throughout the year. I saw that control process. I verified certain substantive procedures, certain transactions which are happened some 6 months or 7 months ago in my sample. I believe the controls are effective throughout the year. If you think the controls are effective for a lengthy period, for a longer period, which means you're having high reliance on that. And the third factor, another, how far this control can deviate. How far this control can deviate. Literally speaking, everywhere IT related checks are there. System checks are there everywhere. GRN, he cannot accept more than 1000 quantity. He cannot mention more than 1000 price. Payment, while making payment also, check will be, check no, they don't mention the manual amount. It has to come by printed. A check has to be kept under printer. Printer will print an automatic number generated as per the system. So whatever there in the purchase order, only that amount will be printed on this check. In that way, the control has been implemented, such a robust control. So deviation is very, very, very low in this organization. So I will have high reliance. What about the reliability of the evidence or information I got regarding the control? When I'm working on the control, I looked at logbook, I reperformed the control, I spoke to people, I observed the process, I saw transactions, and I feel the evidence which I got is most relevant and reliable at each and every assertion. And what is the extent of reliability of other controls? Now, the control which I'm verifying, whether it is reliable or not, I want to know. This is influenced by other controls. The other controls are working effectively, so this control is also effective. Timing. When will I check these test of controls? I may check it at a particular point of time, or I may check it throughout the period. Generally, what we do is we only check in the point of time. That is sufficient for auditor's purpose. Suppose if auditor want to rely upon a control, if auditor want to get the evidence about effectiveness of a control over a period of time, then I must do testing in such a way, the evidence which I get, the testing which I follow, it should give me information about operating effectiveness throughout that period. In such a way, my testing approach. Here only I verify transaction samples, all that. And not only that, when I want to know whether controls are effective throughout the year under audit, I not only look at the samples, I also look at how organization as a whole, environment related controls, monitoring controls also I look into it. What is the organization testing policy? How organization implement, how organization design, on what basis they design this control? Are they reviewing the control again and again? Are they finding any loopholes? If any loophole is identified, how organization is responding to these loopholes? I look at monitoring control. So that's about internal control. That's about internal control. 13, 14, 15, and 17th question. Very, very careful. True or false question or MCQ can come. Unless you don't have command on this terminology, you can't write. There are questions from this particular segment also in Jan 2020 exam also, Jan 2021 cycle also. November 2019, November 2020 also some questions have come, true or false especially. So be careful. So before I proceed further, I want you to read once again. Question number 14, second point. See, what is the length of the time you are relying on the operating effectiveness of the control? What is the length of the time you are relying on the operating effectiveness of control? What do you mean by length of the time? Suppose there is a financial year, 1st April to 31st March. Getting it? You verified the internal control manual, how the control is working, when the control has been designed, when it is implemented effectively, you saw. Suppose example, you are doing audit of 1920, 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2020. You are looking at vendors, like same procurements, purchase related. And vendors related, there is a process which is followed by the management for vendors. When I closely observe this process, I discovered this process is implemented only in the November month of 2019. Before November month of 2019, this is not the process which is followed. That time we followed a normal, lesser process. But this process is very robust. So obviously, based on this process, I can only rely from November to 31st March. Only 4 months I can rely. Remaining 8 months I can't rely. If the time length is increased, my trust on the entire throughout the period will increase. That's what that sentence. Suppose here time limit is only 4 months. Only 4 months that control was applied. Before 4 months, it is not applied in that way. Maybe it is applied in different way. So the time length at which I am relying the control will also influence my influence. If the time length is more, my reliance on the control is also more. I can say more effectivities. So before I proceed further, I'll wait 5 minutes. Read these 4 questions once again, please. Whoever is watching the recorded classes also, please read this question 5 minutes. Take stop from listening the class. 5 minutes, read it. Single reading enough. In many big companies, no, the owner is somewhere. He may be there in the company, he may not be there in the company, he may only just invest, just somewhere relax. Entire business is handled by employees. Suppose you take same Reliance Industries itself. So the owner somewhere sits in Mumbai. They have so many businesses. The turnover is almost 7 lakh crore. The Reliance Group turnover is almost 7 lakh crore. Now they have so many branches in everywhere, in every city in India, they are having some business unit, either in the form of Reliance Trends or Reliance Smart or Reliance something, whatever. You take any business, similar pattern only it will be there. Now this what they need to do, Reliance Trends and all, like some purchases has to be done. See, suppose Reliance Trends, today you're going and buying, let us assume a shirt. How Reliance Trends have got that shirt, that particular shirt? That shirt has been got at that particular place from some central warehouse of the Reliance Industries. Now this Reliance Industries Limited is having warehouses across India. Again, some warehouses will be there. For all south zone, some 2 or 3 warehouses will be there. In the north zone, some 2 or 3 warehouses will be there. Now these warehouses will be purchasing goods in the nearby locality. Now who is making that purchase? That warehouse particular head or somebody authorized by the company. Now that fellow, he can do profit because entire control is with him. The money is with him. He will finalize the seller. You know, I can go and talk to a seller. I will, there is a concept called kickback. I will go and talk to a seller. I want money. I want goods. This is the company on behalf of which I am asking. If I sign, you will be approved vendor. You will have to supply goods for us yearly. Minimum turnover that you will get is 25 to 30 crores from my warehouse alone. I am the warehouse head. Now what I'll do, I'll manipulate. I'll go and talk to him and enter into a side agreement. You bill 30 crores. Our organization will send you 30 crores. Okay. And I will take out of it 1 or 2 crores as commission, so that since I'm giving you the contract, these are bulk orders. No? This kind of frauds will happen in companies because the owner is somewhere. I'm just an employee. So I have, and moreover, I'm having very bigger authority. I'm having huge, big power. I can select the vendor. So that's why here what you need to check, as an auditor, what you need to check, whether whenever you're selecting a vendor, how many tenders we received from various suppliers, because in a market that product is supplied by so many. Suppose you want some cotton input cotton material you want. Per ton, as a manufacturing head, production head, you finalize so and so vendor who is charging per ton so and so amount. He selected everything fine, payments is done, everything is fine. What you do as an auditor is whether the selection process went ethically or not. How he selected? At the time of selection, how many other people have raised tenders? What is the price they quoted? If at all, there is another vendor who quoted lower price and this production manager selected a vendor with having higher price, You need to question him why he selected with higher price. This is what we do in audit, especially we do in internal audit. See, tomorrow, if you get any chance to do internal audit, no, never miss it. Internal audit is the most powerful thing in the entire audit. Future, the entire future is purely on internal audit. I'm telling you, the only wing in chartered accountants, the only wing where chartered accountants can really flourish is something that is internal audit. You study like anything in internal audit, you do so much research, so much of research. So that's about internal audit. Fine. I mean, I hope you understood the significance of control. So organization, what they need to do, this production manager should not do fraud. For which organization set up what control? Inviting tenders from multiple suppliers. Now, the tenders, whoever invited, no, I only select, but there is another person from head office who will finalize that vendor. He will talk to me, he'll talk to vendor, everybody, and he will finalize. I will not talk directly to the tender. I mean, whoever is the person, whoever is tendering. In fact, in tendering process, seller names are hidden. Seller names are hidden. Their details are hidden. He will be given some number. So that no, if at all a tender comes, when I'm selecting, I will select one particular tender. I don't know who raised this tender. Secret numbering will be there. So there will be a tendering website in our organization. That tender will come to that portal and I will get a decoded version, encrypted version. I just look at the price information, all that, and approve it. Suppose no, if at all the seller name, everything is visible, no. I am the one who has to approve, right? I may call and I will influence him. Getting it? In order to give you the contract, you need to give me this permission. You need to give me this much bribe. So seller name, seller details must be hidden. Is this process followed in the organization or not? Also, you need to check, especially in big entities where owner is not the one who is doing the business. Somebody else, an employee is doing the business. That's where internal controls are very important. Hiding the seller name before finalizing the vendor. That hiding seller name is also a control. It's a preventive control. The controls are again so many. There are preventive controls, detective controls, corrective controls, controls which prevent frauds, controls which detect fraud, controls which correct the fraud. Detective control, audit is a detective control, internal audit is a detective control. So that's about the importance of a control. Next. Now, there is another question. Now, suppose if I have appointed as an auditor, 1 year audit has been completed. Next year also, I'm the auditor. Next year also, I'm the auditor. Now, last year, since I only did the entire audit, this year also, I'm the auditor, same person, same engagement partner. I'm thinking, can the auditor use evidence obtained in previous audits? Evidence obtained in previous audits, not regarding financial statements. Regarding operating effectiveness of controls, last year I worked almost day and night for 1.5 months, understanding how controls are designed, how controls are implemented, how controls are maintained, are they effective, are they ineffective. So much work I did. Now this year also, as part of my audit, I need to verify test of controls and of course test of details, substantive procedures I need to do. Test of controls also is something which I need to do even in this year. Now I'm getting, because people are lazy, so I'm getting now a different thought. Can I use last year evidence? I'm getting this stuff. The answer is explained in 2 parts. See, in organization, again, controls are classified into 2 categories. General controls, specific controls. General controls, specific controls. Suppose purchases related controls, specific controls. Sales related controls, specific controls. Production related controls, specific controls. HR related controls, a general control. It may come under general control, human resource related, general control. Control designing, implementation, maintenance is a general control. Now for specific control, no, generally if there is no significant change, sir, last year how purchases were processed, in the same way it is processed, sir. Last year GRN is, what is the control of GRN, how GRN works, same way this year also works. If there is not much changes in specific controls from last year to current year, in a specific control, no much changes happened. Okay, Accept the evidence of last year. No need to once again look into current year specific control. Last year specific control is there. That control same has been operated in current year. You can as it is accept. The problem is general control. General controls are like overall environmental controls. We call it as overall environmental controls. Governance related controls. We in fact call it as governance related controls, risk management related controls, governance risk management, overall controls we call it. How organization is working. There will be a bigger control for top organization. There will be a very controls at a larger level, larger scale. Who is this signing authorities? Who is the ultimate decision maker? Controls that influence board of directors. Those controls are called as general control. So now what we are saying here is the discussion about using audit evidence obtained in previous audit regarding operating effectiveness of controls, whether the information I have in previous year regarding whether controls are operating effectively or not, that particular concept I can divide into two parts. For general control, can I use last year evidence? For specific control, can I use last year controls? All that. This note point not required. General control. In determining when I'm evaluating, the evidence obtained in previous audits is useful. The auditor shall consider length of the time period that may lapse before retesting a control. Length of time period that may elapse before retesting a control. Generally, physical verification of inventory. Every one of you know physical verification of inventory. Even when I'm explaining in CARE also, I told. One time if you do physical verification, will it be enough? Don't you ever do in lifetime again? 31st March 2019, I did physical verification. Tell me, all of you, 31st March, look at the date clearly. 31st March 2019, I verified physical verification of inventory. I did physical verification on 31st March. What is the next possible date? You think and tell me, what is the next possible date? Maximum, that is the date beyond which you cannot postpone. That is the maximum possible date. Tell me, what is the next possible date? Maximum duration. Tell me, everyone. Guess what is the next possible date? I'm asking you to guess the maximum date, not the minimum date. Immediately when you should, no. Maximum when you should check. Exactly. Ravi Kumar said correctly. 31st March 2020. Exactly. 31st March. Rajeshwari is also correct. Yeah, very good. Excellent. 31st March 2019, when I'm verifying this inventory physically, I know that inventory physical verification helps me to value closing stock. Again, next time, maybe monthly once I'll verify, 2 months, 3 months once, 4 months once, something I'll verify. But there is something, a tolerable limit, beyond which you can't postpone. That date is 31st March 2020. Why, sir? Why 31st March 2020 is the maximum cutoff date? Because on this date, again, I should do valuation of inventory. For sure, I need to do valuation of inventory because that is the balance sheet date. On that date, I need to value inventory. I need to check NRV. I obviously have to check physical value. Physical verification is compulsory on that date. In between, whether you do or not, it's okay. Something maybe depending upon the risk you do. Depending if there is no risk, you may not do. If there is a risk, you may do. That's all. Something, but 31st March 2020 is some significant date by which you can't postpone, beyond which you can't postpone. Same way, when you test a particular control. Now here I'm speaking about physical verification control. Same way for every control also, what is the maximum gap where retesting can be done? Auditor has to identify. For general controls, you need to check what is the maximum gap. Okay, last time I got evidence related to general control. Now, how long that evidence is valid? What is the maximum period for which I can use this evidence? An evidence which I got 3 years before, I can't use it today. 3 years back, it is good, but now it is no, I don't know. Last year only I verified, just 11 months, 12 months back. Can I use that evidence? Yeah, you can use it, subject to the following criteria. Subject to the following factor. Minimum tolerable time gap between testing controls to determine whether they are operating effectively. What is the tolerable time gap? Tolerable means what? Yeah, you can bear it. Okay, even if you don't test also, not a problem. Between that, two testing dates, between what is the gap? Is it tolerable or not tolerable? Suppose you felt 12 months is enough, tolerable, fine. Last year evidence you can use in current. No. 12 months is not tolerable. In such case, last year evidence which I got 12 months before, I can't use it in the current. So in addition to the tolerable time gap, in addition to the time gap between previous testing and retesting, now you want to retest. Whether instead of retesting, can I use last year evidence or not is the question. So between retesting period and last year testing, whether last year evidence can be used instead of retesting, the following factors I need to consider. What are all I need to consider? I need to consider how the environment of the organization is, the organization environment, management principles, top management commitment, top management intent. All this strategic management comes into picture here. What is the vision and mission of the top management? How committed they are towards organization achieving goals and all. Look at that control environment. See, is entity risk assessment process is robust as usual. Entity will have every time business process continuation, disaster recovery mechanism, business continuity plan, BCP. How entity risk assessment process, are they doing regularly? Okay, whether we auditors do it or not, keep it aside. Is organization risk assessment process effective? How organization monitoring of controls? How are they monitoring controls? Array, yeah, they're having super monitoring people. They're having so many internal auditors. They're regularly doing monitoring. They're regularly monitoring control environment, everything. It is very, very effective. Yeah, based on this. Yes, yes. Since last year control, now current year, the gap is acceptable. And moreover, company risk assessment process, environment, monitoring process, everything is excellent. I can happily use the control. I can happily use evidence obtained in the previous audit. I can use the same evidence in the current year to decide whether in the current year controls are effectively operating or not. Then I will straightaway check substantive procedure. I will understand ultimate answer. Not only that, what are the risks that are there? Suppose last year I have evidence, no? Is it a manual control related evidence or is it automated control related? I need to check that. So, and if it is a manual, what kind of risk is possible in that? If it is automated, what kind of risk is possible in that? Automated means, is there any system upgradations that happen? Is there any system changes that happen? I need to check. Manual means, did the person change? Same persons are there or persons change? Segregation of duty, rotation of duty. And how effective IT controls are also. I need to look into how effective IT controls. Not only that, I should also see, last year I got evidence, right? In the last year evidence which I got, what are the deviations I identified in last year? See whether those deviations rectified in current year. Suppose the deviations which I found in last year control, payment department is not checking order and they're making payment just like that. Same thing if it is repeated in current year. No, I should not believe it. Whenever I found something wrong, whenever I inform management, they should rectify it for sure. See what is the deviation identified in implementation of controls in the previous audits. I already know, I already have that evidence in the previous audit. I just have to recheck it now. Whether there have been any changes in the personnel, means staff, changes in the staff who are implementing these controls. If there are changes, then I may need to check. And risk of MMS and the extent of reliance. Now, finally, what is your total reliance on the control? Now, after looking at all these points, now decide whether can you use the evidence in the last year. Suppose you felt last year evidence, and now first of all the time gap is the most important. Is it acceptable time length? Is it acceptable or not? So the first thing that you need to check is it acceptable or not? The time gap. Yeah, it is acceptable period. Yeah, I can use that evidence in the current year, subject to the following: overall organization environment, risk assessment process, entities monitoring of controls are effective. Risk characteristics I have to consider. Effectiveness of IT controls I need to consider. What deviations I identified in the last year based on the information I have, that I need to consider. Based on that, I can place trust in the current year by using evidence that I got in the last year. Now, suppose, what about specific controls? What about purchase related controls, sales related controls, specific controls? The the auditor plans to use evidence from previous audit about operating effectiveness of a specific control, then the auditor shall establish continuing relevance of that evidence. Yeah, yes, last year whatever control is there exactly followed in current year. That's why last year information, whatever I know, whatever evidence I have that it is effective, same evidence I will use. Continuing relevance I should establish. Also, auditors shall obtain about any changes happened in the controls compared to the last year. If any changes happen, you need to once again verify. If no changes happen, you can chill. You can just take last year as. Simply speaking, they're asking, controls are same, no? Do you think organizations will change every year controls? The process is same. Whether you go to Big Bazaar in 2018 or whether you're going to Big Bazaar in 2021, the billing process, the way they work, everything is same, no? Now we are asking you, now as an auditor, you need to check controls also. Every time whenever you're doing audit, you need to test controls. Last year I tested. I have the proofs, evidence, information, how, what is the control, how they're working, how they're implementing, how they're working, everything, evidence I have. This year also probably the same would have been there. So why can't I use the same evidence? Why should I again test and unnecessarily stress out? This is the question and this is the answer. Can you use last year evidence order? This is the answer. Very tough topics, this control related topics are very tough. I mean, terminology wise it is tough. It's actually ultimately control checking. It's completely analytical. It's completely analytical, logical, completely analytical. This topics, in fact, we need to read only when you're really doing practical works. Now in classroom, we need to imagine the examples and then discuss. But in reality, when you look at this particular concept with a real life work, when you're really working and then looking at this concept, you feel very simple. Fine. So can you all just go through this question also? 2 minutes I'll wait. Please go through. Definitely you must read. You must read. Question number 16, please read. Next question, if you observe, when deviations from controls are detected, like I told you, in purchase order, whatever price is mentioned, in GRN also the price should be the same. Of course, vendor will give invoice, right? That price should also be same. Suppose if the vendor has given a different price, that is not in our control, so let it be whatever. But in GRN, the price whatever we are taking, that should be as per the order copy. Even if GRN price control is not there, payment wise, when we are making payment, the price must be looked into the purchase order. But that is not happening. GRN price is also not controlled. Payment time also, price is not controlled. Purchase order price, whatever is there, that is not followed by the other staff. If you identify this kind of deviation, what auditor has to do? What specific inquiries do you perform? What you do? Do you say directly the control is weak just based on one invoice? No, what you do? First, you test the test of controls. Is it appropriate basis for reliance on the control? Like, fine, I'll just look into it. When deviations from controls upon which the auditor intends to rely are detected, the deviations from controls upon which the auditor intends to rely. Suppose I want to trust a particular control based on the process, based on the design part, I want to rely on the control. But when I really verify the actual transaction, I found deviations. In that case, the auditor shall make specific inquiries to understand these matters and their potential consequences. What is the impact of the consequence of the deviation? What is the consequence of the deviation? What can go wrong? I need to understand the impact. What can go wrong? So I need to determine whether, I need to check whether test of controls that have been performed, whatever controls which I've tested earlier, are they providing, first of all, appropriate basis for reliance of the control? Whatever I performed earlier, is it reliable, first of all? Because no, when I looked at the control designing, control process, how the control is followed, when I design risk control matrix, when I do all that work, I found control is effective. But later when I'm performing substantive procedure, I discovered some mistake. And that mistake is because of the control failure. Why control failed? It is not working as per the design. Originally, when I saw the risk control matrix, I felt control is effective. But when I look into the actual transaction, I discovered some mistake. I need to once again get back to my work, which I did earlier. I need to check whether is it appropriate or not. I will once again look at the design process, designing of the control, how the control is implemented, all that. And I will see whether any additional test of controls are necessary. Once again, I will check whether do I need to test the control once again? Do I need to analyze each and every component of the control? And what are the potential risk of MMS need to be addressed using substantive? Now, based on that, I will once again test all the transaction. Whatever the risk that is possible, I will identify. Whatever the mistakes that can come, I'll try to identify. Now, finally, after doing substantive procedure, I discovered so many mistakes. Now, I will conclude controls are weak. If even after verifying controls, designing, implementation, after actually verifying the real transaction, I discovered some mistakes. Now I can solidly conclude controls are lacking effectiveness. One student is asking, what is control environment? You will get it in information technology, but anyhow, I'll repeat simply. Control environment means there is a top management. There is an audit committee who is overlooking into the board of directors FI, and this audit committee is appointing internal auditors. These internal auditors are on a regular basis, on a daily basis, on a day-to-day basis, verifying various processes that are implemented by the management. If that process is effectively done in the company, if the entire governance process is effectively done, then I can rely upon information which I got earlier. Last year I got some evidence regarding controls, right? Is that evidence useful in the current year or not? And time is within the time, acceptable time limit. I can use it or not. I looked at control environment. Control environment is very effective. Governance is very honest. Management is honest. That's what control environment means. Control environment means the overall hierarchy, how organization is running as a whole, how it is monitored as a whole. So that's about a question. This question has been asked in November 2019 for 3 months. What are the inquiries to be done by the auditor when deviations from controls are detected? When auditor has detected any deviation on a control where he is relying, on a control where he relied actually, but he identified some deviations, detections, he detected some deviations, then auditor has to identify whether the test of control he performed earlier, because he did some work earlier, he thought of relying it, later he discovered some mistake, now he is again getting doubts. Whether his testing done earlier, is it correct? Is it appropriate? Is there a requirement to test control little more? Then do substantive procedure and try to identify whether it is effectively working or not. That's how we need to tackle if you identify any deviation. If a control got deviation, where you originally thought of relying it, where you originally thought it is good, but you found some mistake later. So whether your reliance is correct or not, you need to do these 3 things. So that's about test of controls. Now here another 3 more questions were there, 3 or 4 questions were there. So what is this question? This is regarding substantive procedures again. Financial statement closing process. What do you mean by financial statement closing process? How do we close the financials? You would have seen in accounting standard 4, subsequent event probably. There is a term called approval of financial statements. Approval of financial statements. What is approval of financial statements? How approval of financial statements happens? 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2020, books of accounts are prepared. On 31st March 2020, organization look into what are all the outstanding items, prepaid items, what are the other adjustment entries that they need to pass. All that entries they will pass, and finally close the books of accounts. Close the books of accounts. Once books of accounts are closed, they prepare a trial balance. Based on the trial balance, they prepare balance sheet, profit and loss account as per applicable financial reporting framework. And once the financial statements are prepared with the management like this, they will be approved by the board of directors. And on this approved financial statements, auditor has to give audit report and opinion. This is what happens in a financial statement closing process. This is what happens in financial statement closing. First, you need to close books of accounts. How do you close books of accounts? Books of accounts is a continuous process, but you need to put a cutoff date and close for that particular date. 1920 books of accounts you need to close. So you need to keep adjustment entries, all that, outstanding entries, prepaid entries, other rectification entries, all that you need to pass, then close it. And before approval, that again, if at all any subsequent events happen, that also you need to effect. That also you need to effect. So once approval is done, books of accounts are closed. Now, what is the question here? What they're asking? Write about substantive procedures. As an auditor, how do you verify financial statement closing process? How do you conclude? Yes, financial statements are closed properly. How do you conclude? What are the things that you verify? The auditor substantive procedure shall include the following techniques, the following procedures, the following activities related to financial statement closing process. First one, what I do, I will reconcile financial statements with underlying accounting records. So financial statement means balance sheet P&L. No, whatever balance sheet P&L I have, no, company gave me, sir, this is the balance sheet P&L, you need to sign, sir. I need to check with accounting records. Accounting records means trial balance. Entire accounting records, what is the end document? Trial balance. Based on trial balance, we prepare balance sheet P&L. That is the first thing which I check. Second one, I will need to look into the important journal entries and other adjustment entries during the preparation of financials. I showed you in the example also, when I'm closing the books of accounts, outstanding, prepaid, other adjustment, rectification entries, I will pass this and then I will close books. Then I will prepare a financial statement. So I need to look at what are the important journal entries passed during the year end, other adjustments, all that. Nature and extent of examination of journal entries and other adjustments depends upon nature and complexity of the financial reporting process and related risk and management. So how I will verify these journal entries? Do I need to verify all the closing journal entries or only few journal entries do I need to verify? Do I need to look at all the adjustments or only few adjustments? It depends upon complexity of the organization, related risk of MMS. No, organization is very experienced. It is even headed by chartered accountants, audit committee. They are overlooking into each and they are looking into each and everything very carefully. And entity is also not much complex. It's not much. No, it's a very simple manufacturing entity. So very much easily you can identify what are all the expenses, incomes, prepaid, outstanding. You can easily identify. No much decision making process is involved. In such a case, you moderately verify on a sample basis. If it is very complex, you verify little in depth. So this is the substantive procedure that you follow for for verifying financial statement closing process. Yes, financial statements are closed properly or not, you need to check. So how balance sheet P&L has been prepared from books of accounts, that you need to check. Even if you look at 143 subsection 3, one of the checklist item, auditor has to check whether financial statements are agreeing with books of accounts, books and records of the company. You need to check that and comment in the auditor's report. So that's about question number 19, substantive procedure related to financial statement closing process. Before I proceed further, can you please read again? 2 minutes. I'll wait. Please read for 2 minutes. Next one. Write about substantive procedures responsive to significant risk. This question I keep it pending. You remind me when I'm explaining risk assessment and internal control, where I will be talking about significant risk related discussion. Significant related risk discussion. Suppose if you look at which question means probably some 7th or 8th question in risk assessment. Significant risk. Yeah. Question number 5 in risk assessment chapter. This is risk assessment chapter. This is risk assessment chapter. Here I need to discuss about substantive procedures also. So question number 20 in documentation chapter. Question number 5, if you look at in 8th chapter, I think risk assessment and internal control is an 8th chapter, I think so. So in that chapter, question number 5 is there, which discusses about the concept of significant risk. Now, how to verify the significant risk? What substantive procedure you follow to verify the significant risk? That we will discuss at this time. At this time, we will discuss. So this in risk assessment internal control chapter, question number 5. After that only you should see it. Then question number 21. Give some example of circumstances where it is appropriate, where it is right, where it is right to prepare documentation relating to use of professional judgment where the matters and judgments are significant. Oh my God. See, professional judgment is nothing but thought process. First understand, professional judgment is something thought process. Whether a machinery useful life is correct or not, we get some data. What is the manufacturer warranty given? How the machine has been used by the organization? How many shifts the organization is working? What is the expectation of the mission capacity? Taking into all these factors into account, we determine whether the useful life 8 years or 6 years or 10 years or 20 years, whatever the useful life adopted by management is correct or not, based on the thought process, based on the information we gathered, so we finalize. Now here you are using some judgmental skills, right? Okay, this is how they use, this is how, that's how they decide. Okay, this is reasonable, that is not reasonable. Something you decide based on your thought process, based on your experience. And moreover, whatever you decided is very important, significant matter. How do you document this? How do you document this? Give some examples where it is appropriate to document. You need to document what circumstances where you will document regarding this. First, let us read the answer. In the following cases, the auditor shall document his use of common sense. Whatever the common sense you're using, your common sense has to be documented. Whatever the common sense process you've used, you need to document it. You need to record it. If such decision, judgment is relating to some matter which are significant, which are very important. Significant means, suppose in Reliance Industries Limited in 2019-20, they changed useful life of the plant and machinery. They changed useful life of plant and machinery whose value is 3 lakh crore. Now, whether the changes in useful life of plant and machinery whose value is 3 lakh crore correct or not, Reliance auditors has verified. How do you document that, they're asking? So first, no, auditor has to look at the rationale, means the logic. For the auditor's conclusion, what is your conclusion? When a requirement provides that auditor shall consider certain information or factors, or that consideration is significant in the context of particular engagement. Reliance company changes useful life of 90% of the fixed asset during 1819, and here the auditor can document information about number of years, reasons for changes, as these may be significant matters according to the auditor. I gave an example also. The logic for auditor's conclusion, the rationale for auditor's conclusion, when a requirement provides, what is the requirement? Reliance company change useful life. What is it requiring you? It is requiring you to consider certain information. What information? It is asking you to consider what is the actual number of years, why there is a change in useful life in the context of particular engagement. Further, another, what is the basis? On what basis you concluded reasonableness of the areas of subjective judgment? Example, reasonableness of significant accounting estimates. Management said revised useful life is 9 years. You also accepted it is correct. How did you accept? What is the basis? Maybe you would have taken expert report. That is the basis. Example, expert report would have been there. Industry related this thing would have been there, or manufacturer related, seller, the mission related manufacturer gave some information. Not only that, okay, you got some expert report. Based on the expert report, you said the useful life is correct. How do you know this expert report is reliable? What is the basis for auditor's decision, conclusion about authenticity of a document? You got expert report, you further investigated. You investigated further. So you need to look at authenticity of the document. Like whatever the documents information you need to look into the authenticity. That conclusion you need to document how authentic it is. Like you see, the basis for auditor's conclusion about authenticity of a document when further investigation is undertaken in response to conditions identified during the audit that caused the auditor to believe that the document may not be authenticate. Originally, you thought this expert is not an expert, is not having that expertise in determining plant and machinery valuation. So you thought he is not authentic originally. Later on, you relied on his report. Originally, where you believed it is not genuine, later you believed it. On what basis you believed it? That basis also document. That basis also you document. Maybe originally I thought this expert is the one who do not have any sort of qualification or experience or credit rating, all that. Later you came to know from one of the staff, he's a very renowned expert in that industry. He's an oil engineer. He's having all requisite qualifications. He did so and so valuations and all previously. His profile is there. Document that profile. Okay, though I originally doubted him, his profile I saw. After seeing his profile, I felt he is authentic. So his profile and and whatever the decisions he have taken, that expert report, whatever is there, that report I'll document. Not only that, I will also document whatever the information and factors I will take into account in order to take a decision. I will document. These 3 points I'm speaking only in the point of view of Reliance Industries exam. But I feel this is not much important from exam point of view. Not much important from exam point of view. Okay, but see how tough the terminology sitting here. How tough the terminology. Like this in entire auditing, hardly 5% of the syllabus in the auditing is with this kind of terminology. With this kind of terminology, 5%. That's about professional judgment, how to document. Next, I don't want to hurry up or speed up because this is a bit tough topic. I want to discuss it as slow as possible, as neat as possible, because you need to get command on the terminology. See how I'm reading, how I'm breaking the sentences, many places, how I'm breaking the sentence. Sometimes when you read blindly a sentence, you don't understand at all. You need to break it in multiple parts. Very carefully you need to break it. So 22nd question, 23rd question, don't worry, we'll discuss tomorrow. We will discuss tomorrow. We will discuss tomorrow. I already asked my friend also to send me risk control matrix. We did one work. So he's having all the working papers. So I asked him to bring a risk control matrix of one particular procurement, vendor related. He will send me a mail today probably. I'll see you tomorrow. We have controls related discussion in risk assessment, internal control chapter. There once again, all these points will come into picture. So there I will be once again discussing controls related. So slowly we So that's it about controls related one. Now still we have 22nd and 23rd question. 22nd and 23rd question. Yeah, Sai Vamshi, tomorrow remind me, debit note, credit note, stock in transit. Three things I will explain. Debit note, credit note, stock in transit. All the three things I'll discuss. That's a normal topic, not audit related topic. That's a normal topic. Fine. So have a nice time. Carry on for the day.